What's up, you guys? Tyler Huxford here, and for today's video, we're going to be talking about my 2025 New Year's resolutions. Really excited to talk about this. I'm actually bringing you this video today, December 31st, so I'm going to have to hustle to edit this video either tonight or very early tomorrow. But I'm excited to cover this. I'm an extremely goal-oriented person. I believe that writing things down, committing to them, and then putting together plans to make things happen is how you make goals happen. And these goals are also going to dictate sort of the direction you're going to see of the Tyler Huxford channel moving forward as well. So I think that this will be of interest to anyone who's part of the fam, the small but mighty fam here, which is closing in on 5,500 subscribers. So thanks to all of you who are subscribed. Now, I have put a lot of thought into this, and I could honestly get lost talking about these subjects. So I brought my handy dandy Mac to go over my goals today to keep it really simple and hopefully make a nice, tidy, short enough video for anyone interested here. So I've divided my 2025 goals into 5 categories. That is hobbies, family, fitness, finance, and faith. So as we go through these goals, I'll be following that order. We're gonna jump into hobbies first. So a lot of you who subscribe to the channel know I'm very into fish, saltwater fish, and reef tanks. I have a goal here to build 2 true LPS reef tanks. For those of you not into fish, LPS corals, large polyp stonies, are a very specific type of coral that are extremely colorful and get a lot of movement in the water. So it makes an eye-popping tank. But for those of you who are in the hobby, you know that LPS tanks often are tough to keep. You look at them wrong and these corals can die. They're very sensitive corals. It means you have to be extremely on top of your parameters. It means you got to stay on top of your water changes. This year, I've committed to doing that. Weekly water tests, weekly water changes, and I also am looking to add small but colorful additions of euphyllias, hammers, torches, frog spawns to my tank to slowly add to the reef tank that I've got. Goal number 2 here, I probably should have led with this. This is probably most important for anybody tuning in. There will be weekly YouTube videos. I'm impressed that we've even grown the channel this much. Honestly, again, very grateful for everybody subscribed to the channel thus far, but I've never actually successfully made a video every week in a year. This year, I really want to do that. Now, as far as the direction of the channel here, this channel is intended for anyone who realistically wants to maximize their life, wants to improve their relationships, wants to improve their financial situation, wants to improve their fitness levels, all while improving their relationship with God. So some of the ideas that I have for the channel moving forward is we're going to have a travel series. My wife and I like to travel on trips. We're going to be taking the GoPro Max with us as we encounter and meet new folks, because my wife and I, being in a trilingual family, realistically meet just a ton of really cool people on our travels, and we have really crazy experiences on our travels, so it'd be really cool to document those. That being said, we'd also like a storytelling series where we're telling some of the crazy experiences that we've had on our travels. One of the most successful videos on the channel so far, I've noticed, is a video, for example, where I saved a Brazilian woman on my motorcycle who was lost in the mountains, had gotten separated from her friends. A lot of people like that video. So a few more videos like that where it's just daily encounters, being a good citizen, a good friend, meeting some cool folks, and maybe in a few languages as well. I'm thinking about book reviews, specifically as a self-improvement series. Some of the books that I've read that have really made an impact and a difference in my life. I think that would be extremely cool. And then obviously we'll be covering the bread and butter content on this channel, which is the investing content, my investing strategies, how I built wealth to prepare for a family, how I build businesses on the side. Real estate ventures, as my wife and I are really heavy into investing into real estate, running Airbnbs and long-term rentals. We're going to incorporate fitness training here as well, as anybody who knows me knows that that's been a major part of my life ever since I was 12 years old. And then of course focusing on the self-improvement, the life coaching, the productivity boosting, the skill development on this channel as well. Actually, that being said, I would like to hear specifically what everyone on this channel thinks. What videos would you like to see as part of the Tyler Huxford channel? What content specifically would be most interesting to you? I just walked you through my thoughts. Would love to hear yours. Second goals here are the family-centered goals. So here they are. Number 1 is we want to have reading time in our family. So I have made goals in the past as far as how many books I want to read in a year. Honestly, when you become a father or a husband, you find that it's a little tougher to read a book a week. So I'm not going to put a specific amount of books that I'm going to read, but I do want there to be daily reading time with the family. We've got little Indigo, who is 5 months old, and we're trying to help learn 2 languages, so an English and a Spanish book, alternating that with Indigo I think is going to be fun. And then of course I've got my daughter who's 11 years old, my stepdaughter Cadence, and I'd like to read a book with her. And again, I don't want to put the pressure on her to force her to read a certain amount of books in the year, but the point is we'll be reading the same books, her in English, me in Spanish. By the way, one of my goals is to master the Spanish language. That's my third language, and I want to realistically be as dominant in Spanish as I am in Portuguese. Reading has really helped me do that. So anyways, Cadence and I will be reading the same books. We're actually starting with the Michael Vey books. I just bought the first, second, and third book for us to read together. Really excited to dive into those. I've also got on this list weekly date nights with my wife Yesenia. Those who have met Yesenia know how lovely she is. Obviously want to spend as much time with her as possible. We do a pretty good job of weekly date nights, honestly. I think that we already kind of keep this. It's tougher when you've got a small child, it really is, but Yesenia and I kind of shamelessly are the couple who bring our small child to restaurants and movie theaters, and Indigo's pretty well behaved. So we are that couple. We bring our kids everywhere with us. But I want to continue that tradition. We also have a goal as a family to make 2 international trips next year. So one of those is going to be to go to Mexico to spend time with Yesenia's family there. We weren't able to do that last year just because Yesenia was pregnant, and we found out on a Hawaii trip that traveling while pregnant is a really hard thing to do. So we're hoping to make this trip pretty early on in the year before any planned pregnancies to make sure that Yesenia is feeling well for the trip. And then we'd also like to do a second trip. So second trip for us is probably going to be to Brazil. As a goal for our family, I'd really like to long-term visit all the 7 wonders of the world, both the man-made wonders as well as the geological wonders. And Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, or Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, is a place where you've got both a man-made wonder of the world as well as a geological wonder of the world. So would really like to make it there. Another one for family for me, since I consider relationships and good friends an extension of my family, is to actually reconnect with old friends. So, a little bit about me. I'm from South Bend, Indiana. I graduated and went to a military school in Roswell, New Mexico. Then I went on a mission to Brazil. Then I went to school at Brigham Young University here in Provo, Utah. And then professionally, I worked in sales all across the country: Sacramento, California, Atlanta, Georgia, Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C. You get the picture. I lived a pretty nomadic life growing up, which means that I made all kinds of friends I couldn't necessarily just stick in my pocket and take with me, which means I have a lot of good friends that I've just frankly lost contact with, especially my high school buddies who I really miss. So would like to get back in touch with them, with anybody who's willing to reconnect again. Planning on writing some letters to a few folks, having a few phone calls. I think at this point in my life, what I value the most are the relationships. I didn't give a huge focus to maintaining my friendships once I moved out of the areas. I kind of compartmentalize where I'm at, and the fact that I haven't lived in Indiana, even visited Indiana in over 10 years means I lost contact with a lot of folks. I'd like to get back into contact with them. All right, next goal is fitness. I'm really excited about this one. I actually have gotten a running start on a few of these. I've been spending a lot more time getting focused on this goal. So one of them is I'd like to run my first marathon. So this is part of my journey in transforming into a triathlete. I would eventually like to check the bucket list item off of becoming an Ironman, competing in the Ironman race. That's something that I won't do this year, but I'd like to gradually get to the point where I can accomplish that. I think the first step in getting there is making sure that I'm conditioned for the long distance running events. Realistically, all my life, all that's mattered as an athlete is how fast I can run 40 yards or 100 yards. And after that, frankly, it just doesn't matter. How much I can squat, how much I can power clean, how much I can bench press. And I want to continue to lift the heavy weights. So that's going to be the challenge here. I know if I committed completely to qualifying for a marathon, I could absolutely transform my body to do that. But I want to be a hybrid athlete, meaning I'm going to continue to lift the heavy weights and train for this marathon and see how that goes. To put that into perspective, I want to be able to run this qualifying time in the marathon while also being able to squat 455 pounds 5 times, bench pressing 315 5 times, and running a 400-meter dash under a minute. I know that these are oddly specific, but honestly, these are things that most of my life I've been able to do, and I was always training for. Now, in order to accomplish this, I'm going to have to make some serious life changes. I am 35 years old, so realistically, I'm not in the prime of life anymore. I'm going to have to watch what I eat, so that's one of the things that I have down here is learning how to cook meals. I've actually already started doing that, getting pretty good here, folks. So making sure that I'm not just eating a bunch of calories to keep my weight and strength, but good calories. We're also going to be focusing on sleep. That's one of the things we'll talk about on the channel is how to optimize sleep so that you can then optimize your performance the next day. And then we're also going to be focusing on recovery in addition to just really intense training. We're going to document all of this. So if you're interested in becoming a hybrid athlete like I am slowly becoming, we're going to talk about how to do that on this channel. Really excited about it. Next goals are finance goals. So again, this kind of is the bread and butter of the channel. I think realistically, somebody like me, a large part of my self-improvement has come professionally in becoming an investor, learning how to save money, learning how to invest money, grow money. And honestly, having the finances translates to other great goals as well, such as building better relationships and a stronger family, because when you're not stressing about the money and how you're gonna meet ends meet, you can be a better partner, you can be a better provider, you can have a stronger family with less stress. That being said, one of the things I'd like to do for my family is I'd really like to purchase our forever home this year. This last year, there weren't really any opportunities in real estate. This is actually the first time in 7 years that my wife and I have not bought a house, a rental, or an ADU as part of our real estate strategy. There just really weren't the opportunities in the marketplace this year. But our portfolio has grown really nicely, and I anticipate that we were going to be able to purchase our forever home or at least a vacation home, which we can then Airbnb next year. Now, once again, I won't just do this for the sake of doing it. When the right opportunity comes along, then we'll move forward. Those of you who watch the channel already know that my wife and I have already run several Airbnbs here in Utah. We'd really like to purchase a vacation rental in either the St. George area, the Gatlinburg, Tennessee area, and there's a few other markets that we've taken a look at as well. If we don't do that, then we'll just be purchasing our own forever home. But candidly, our goals for a forever home are a little ambitious, so it's got to be the right place. Most likely we'll have to build a custom home realistically. And again, the reason I want to try to do this year is my daughter Cadence is going to be going into junior high next year, and realistically, I'd like her to get a running start going into high school. I'd love to live in our forever home a few years ahead of high school so she has time to make friends, get to know the community that she's going to be a teenager and a high school student in. I'd love to be able to do that for her. I kind of don't want to move while Cadence is in high school. I just think that would be way too traumatic. Indigo is so young, there's no pressure there. And then also in the financial goals, so I have an income goal, which would be a little tacky to share here, but do have an income goal, as well as a stock portfolio goal, which I might share in future videos, as we'll be spending a lot of time talking about in 2025, the specific side hustles, businesses, and I think unique opportunities in the stock market that are just really going to take off in 2025. I do think they exist. I think it's going to be a phenomenal year for investors, and we're going to highlight that journey all along the way next year. Lastly, we end with probably the most important goals, which are the faith-oriented goals. So anybody who knows me knows that my faith is absolutely the foundation of who I am. I really hope and genuinely pray that anybody who knows me as a Christ-like individual, as I strive to be a little bit more like him each and every day. My wife and I are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is a major part of who we are. So one of these goals for me next year is to read the Book of Mormon as well as the New Testament in the Bible in Spanish. So I actually got a head start on my Book of Mormon here. I've been reading this honestly about half a year. You can tell it's pretty well worn. Pulled this out pretty frequently from my backpack. I've read the Book of Mormon several times. I've already read it in Portuguese, read it in English. I noticed that my ability to speak Portuguese after I read the Book of Mormon in Portuguese just went through the roof. So I'm really hoping that by reading the Book of Mormon in Spanish, my ability to speak Spanish will go through the roof as well. The other exciting thing that's happening next year is Cadence, our daughter, is actually going to be old enough to attend the Latter-day Saint temples that are sprinkled all across the globe, but especially here in Utah. What we'd like to do is to make sure we're attending the temple at least once a month. That's something that I think anybody who has children knows is a little challenging to do sometimes, but we're really committing to that this year. We're specifically committing to get this done with Cadence, who's now old enough to enter the temple. And I'd love it if we could make it into each and every temple in operation here in Utah this year. I think we could plan some really cool trips around that. Even that trip to Rio de Janeiro that I was talking about, there is a temple in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil that we could attend. That would be extremely cool. I've always had the goal to enter all temples in the world. Then during the pandemic, the church just started building just a ton of temples. So I don't know if that's gonna happen anymore, but I would like to enter into as many as I can. I've already entered into more than 100 worldwide. I planned some really cool trips to get into those temples, had some amazing experiences, and would like my family to enjoy the same thing. For those of you who aren't members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and don't know what we do in the temples, so the temple is where we have the opportunity to perform the ordinances such as a baptism for deceased relatives and folks who didn't have the opportunity to be baptized or hear about Jesus Christ. We believe that by baptizing ourselves as proxy for them, they can then accept those ordinances on the other side so that they can be baptized, they can accept Jesus Christ as their Savior, and thus our family relationships, which we build here on earth, can extend and become eternal families someday. So our family has committed to that. That's it for today's video, folks. Let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe you might be able to piggyback off of some of these ideas and roll these into your own New Year's resolutions. But either way, here's to following through with our New Year's resolutions. Here's to making our dreams happen. Catch you next week, folks. I commit to that.